Watching the pros ride their bikes is a little like watching poetry in motion, yet so fast at the same time. And I imagine many of you have actually wondered, how do the pros ride so fast? Well, let's take a look.
Power! Yes, power. It's obvious, of course, the pros push more power. But it's not just about how much power they push at their FTP. It's about your watts per kg. A 60 kg rider pushing 250 watts is pushing roughly the same watts per kg as an 80 kg rider pushing 330 watts. What the pros do is have a higher watts per kg. And then, of course, there's the application of that power. The pros are very efficient in the application of that power. They don't waste energy with lateral movements or hip rocking. All of their power goes into going forward.
But talking of power, we also have how well the power is distributed. Now the pros are incredibly good at having a longer and smoother power phase to their pedal stroke, requiring less peaks of high torque. Now, the way that they do this is by distributing the workload across more muscles, therefore allowing for that longer power phase and meaning that particular muscles don't become overly stressed or fatigued. So how can we improve this ourselves? Well, a bunch of ways really. One, it's simply riding more. Another is working on our muscle recruitment. And we can achieve this by doing some overgearing work or short, high burst intervals.
The pros are obviously very talented, and you can't expect to hold the same power as they do. That's just not realistic. They're the best of the best. But there's something you can compete with them with, and that is optimization. We're talking about your setup, essentially. You can optimize your aerodynamics, your drag, your drivetrain friction, etc., and be as good as the pros, or better. In this day and age, pros spend a lot of time, a lot of hours, and a lot of money investing in making sure that their setup is as optimized as possible. That's the lowest rolling resistance tires, drivetrain friction, aerodynamic clothing, time in the wind tunnel for their bike setup, all that kind of stuff. And before you say, this costs too much money for me to do, go take a look at your local time trial scene and see some of the hacks that the locals are doing to improve their aerodynamics and optimize their setup.
Next up, we have drafting. Of course, this isn't quite as applicable for non-drafting events, but I'll get onto that very shortly. Now, drafting is essentially just sitting within someone's slipstream, meaning that the wind resistance you experience is lessened, meaning that you can tactically save some energy. Now, regardless of whether you compete in drafting events or do cycling racing, this is still a very beneficial skill, particularly for your training. It means that you can ride further, longer, and just generally have a more relaxed and fun time riding with your friends. Of course, drafting does still exist within non-drafting racing too. And legally, even at 12, 15 or 20 meters behind another rider, you will still experience a draft and therefore an energy saving. So for that reason, you will see pros riding along in an evenly spaced out pace line, and they will ride right up to that limit so they're not giving anything away and they are saving as much energy as possible without hopefully breaking the rules. Now, because of that, you'll often see groups working together in these pace lines to try and gain an advantage on other groups out there, or perhaps chase them down.
Bike position. We mentioned it before, but it really deserves its own section because it's that important. Pros will spend ages, countless hours, days even, tweaking and honing their bike setup to get it perfect. And that's because it can make a huge difference to your performance. The reason being that an improved bike position means less effort for the same speed, or more speed for the same effort. And a perfect bike position can also improve your ability to actually produce that power. And this is particularly important for a pro because air resistance is exponential, so more air resistance at higher speeds. In fact, in some cases, to double your speed, you might need to pedal as much as 8 times harder. So at pro speeds, air resistance becomes that much more important, and tiny tweaks can make a huge difference to your performance on race day.
You don't need to brake so much. Okay, now, hear me out on this one before you go careering into a sharp corner and calling me an idiot. Wait 1 minute. Now, obviously, braking slows you down and requires energy to get yourself back up to speed, accelerate back up to speed. Unnecessary braking is obviously a waste of energy. So we're not saying be reckless on this one, but perhaps try to avoid what we call comfort braking. So when you're rolling along a nice fast road, or perhaps slightly downhill, and you just start to go a little bit faster than you're comfortable with, you brake because you feel you should. Now, braking to obviously bring yourself to a comfortable speed is absolutely fine. But before you do that, perhaps just take a quick look around, a look ahead at the road that you're going along. Is it smooth? Is it straight? Is it free of obstructions? If so, do you need to brake? Can you let the bike roll without the resistance of braking and get some free speed?
To help with Mark's last point, the pros recce their course. That means they can brake less because they know which corners they need to brake for. They also know which corners they need to sit up for and get out of the aero bars, and they know which corners they can just fly through. They know how the hills go, they know which ones are fast downhills and which ones they really have to push on the uphill. All this to say, you can recce your course too. In fact, a lot of the points we made today, you can do too. We hope today's video has given you some insight into how the pros ride faster. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more videos from GTN.